we do have king f7, king g8, h7, h8. We should be winning. Hello everybody, my name is Emil Stefanov, International Master, and this is weekly scenario number 20 in Noctie. Let's get started. Now, this position may look familiar to most of you. That is because, starting from this week, for the next couple of weeks, we will be exploring positions from the candidates. Again, the Candidates Tournament is one of the most thrilling events in chess history. There's a lot of exciting games, and we will be looking at positions that happen in the candidates games. So this position occurred in round 1 between the two Americans, Fabiano Caruana versus Hikaru Nakamura. And in this game, Caruana was actually doing really good until later in the game he had a small little hiccup. Hikaru couldn't really make the most out of it, and eventually Caruana ended up winning. Let's figure out what's going on with the position. As we can see, both sides have queens and 2 bishops, but Caruana does have 1 extra pawn on f2. That is a very important extra pawn. It keeps this king a lot more safer, so there's not going to be potential for many checks from black. So in a way, we're kind of safe from perpetual checks. Furthermore, what we see is opposite color bishops. As you can see, most of white's pawns are placed on light squares, except the f2 and g3 pawns. Again, they're kind of helping cover those dark squares, so there's not going to be any sort of perpetual checks on those squares. And as you can see, all of black's pawns are on dark squares. So the way for us to advance in this position is going to be on the light squares, obviously, and we're going to try to infiltrate with the queen, the same way that Caruana did in the game. But the main important thing to note is, when are we going to trade the queens? We have to be very precise in how we trade the queens. If we do, usually 1 extra pawn might not be sufficient in an opposite color bishop endgame. Imagine the queens were off the board. All that black has to do really is just most likely position the bishop there and position the king here, and it's really hard to advance with white. So we do have to be careful. But let's go ahead and start with one of the most logical moves. I am seeing that this king is weak on this diagonal, so I would like to get my bishop around to the d5 square. That is one of my first thought processes. This way I can place the queen on e6, but might as well start with queen e6 because I'm going to reroute the bishop through the c6 square, and that's what happened in Caruana's game. So knowing what happened in the game also helps for us to figure out the first move. As we can see, Noctie playing queen d8. Again, Noctie could not get active with the queen because we had queen e8 checkmate. So we could just continue with the plan that I was talking about, which was bishop c6, bishop d5. And yeah, there's going to be queen e7, but there's no problems with that. Bishop c6, as we can see, a great move. And we're just going to play bishop d5 and try to go for queen g8 and exploit those light square weaknesses. Queen e7, again, as mentioned, be very careful if you're going to trade the queens. In this situation, we do not want to trade the queens, so we're going to avoid that by playing queen c8 check. As you can see, a good move by Noctie. Now, if Noctie goes king f7, in a world of trouble with bishop d5. So, of course, Noctie is not going to just blunder like that. Noctie plays queen d8. And this is going to be the moment where you start realizing that black's position is really hard to defend, mainly because we're going to be putting pressure on 2 things. In most positions, even when you have an extra pawn, you kind of need 2 weaknesses. In this situation, the first weakness is the fact that the enemy king is extremely weak and vulnerable to a lot of checks on the light squares. So that's the first weakness. The second weakness is this pawn on b6. So if Noctie were to play queen e7, we're going to have queen takes b6. So we're going to be able to win a second extra pawn. And this is exactly what I'm going to showcase. Noctie plays queen e7, not a good move. And I'm just going to take the pawn on b6. Now, remember what I said earlier. These 2 pawns are going to help us protect our king from perpetual checks. And that's exactly the case. After queen e1 check, all I got to do is push my king to g2. And because it's on a light square, the bishop covers all the diagonals, so I don't have to worry about it. So after the move queen takes b6, now we are up 2 extra pawns. So now we start thinking, okay, do we want to trade the queens? And that's a legitimate point. Do we want to trade the queens? Queen takes d8. advance our king, and maybe, because we have 2 extra pawns, we will most likely win the game. That's one thought process. Another one is going to be, well, we just managed to win this pawn, and we can continue putting pressure on Noctie's position. So we could just continue with queen b7. An alternative point would be to play pawn to c5. And I tell this to my students all the time. If you trade on their terms, if you trade on your opponent's terms, that usually tends to benefit them. But if we trade on our terms by playing pawn to c5 and then queen takes b6, c takes b6, that trade is on our terms, and that pawn is going to be super advanced on that b7 square. And that is something that I'm enjoying quite a lot more. So I might consider playing the move c5 because it helps me get the pawn forward, which I actually like. And as you can see, Noctie approves it. It's an excellent move. So I'm really happy with that. And after c takes b6, we're just going to keep playing and push that pawn to b7. And now this is going to be winning, mainly because, well, I'm assuming it's going to be winning. I'm not quite certain. But with that pawn on b7, I just have a feeling that we are indeed winning. So Noctie will have to blockade it, but we can easily protect this pawn with our light square bishop. The king will never be able to take it. And our king has a very easy path all the way to the e4 square, where it will be targeting this d4 pawn. So that's exactly what I'm going to start doing. I'm going to play f4. Yes, I'm placing a pawn on the dark square, but that's okay, because the bishop really cannot attack the g3 pawn. King e7, I'm going to start walking my king all the way to e4. That's my target. And again, I just need to be careful not to lose this pawn. Okay, so Noctie might try something like king c5, king b6. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that I might have to place my bishop on the square that I wanted to place my king. But that's okay. The b5 square would in fact protect both of these pawns, but it will not protect the b7 pawn, which Noctie can go king c5, king b6, and king b7. But maybe in the meantime, I am really quick about winning this pawn on g7. How would Noctie protect it? Let's try to calculate a little bit. Bishop b5, king c5, king f3, king b6, king e4, king b7. Yes, we could take this pawn, but we could also play king f5. But Noctie has bishop d8, king g6, bishop g5, bishop f6, sorry. g6, it's not over. It definitely feels like we are making a lot of progress, and we probably are winning in that endgame. Noctie's king has to go somewhere. Let's say king b6. And we play g5, takes, king e5. I know this is quite a long variation, but it does seem to be working in our favor. Takes, and even if something like king c5, we do have king f7, king g8, h7, h8. We should be winning. I know there's a lot of arrows. I know it maybe feels like this is Hikaru and not International Master Emil Stefanov. All jokes aside. But I do think we're winning. There's probably easier ways to win. But let's just go with bishop b5. And let's go ahead and walk. Again, this is the principle of the two weaknesses. See, this is one weakness for Noctie, and this is the other weakness for Noctie, the g7 pawn. So I'm going to just start walking and try to capture it. So hopefully everything I've calculated is precise. It does seem like it is working. At the very least, we can always capture the d4 pawn. And if we're not certain, if we don't know exactly how we want to proceed, there is a very cool function in Noctie. For example, Noctie played bishop b8, which, okay, Noctie could have just taken the pawn on b7. But if you are ever in doubt of what you want to do, you can just click on the Show Ideas button in Noctie. It's going to show you the moves that you can play. So all of these 3 moves are good. I'm just going to proceed with the most logical to me, which was king f5, king g6. But that show Ideas button is really cool because maybe you are uncertain about something, and then by clicking on it, you can see, okay, it is one of the top 3 moves. So you're on the right path, essentially. So yeah, king g6. How about we go take the pawn? Noctie should have really taken on b7. I don't think it would have made a difference. And now it's just a cleanup. Now we just clean up the pawns here, and we're going to promote, not this way, but this way. We're going to promote one of these 2 pawns is all I'm trying to say. So king h6, maybe even the h pawn is probably going to be the simplest. And that's that. Yeah, Noctie didn't really try to take this pawn. It's just kind of stuck on repeating the same moves, but okay, I'm cleaning up on the king side. And there we have it. On the next move, we're going to have a forced checkmate. Okay, not a forced checkmate on the next move. Obviously, Black's king does have the b8 square, so we could freely take this bishop to not fear, and the next move is going to be checkmate after king b8. So, as you saw, very easy when we have two weaknesses to work with. Let's go ahead and go back in the starting position and replay the position one more time. Alrighty, let's go ahead and play another game against Noctie to really solidify our understanding of the position. So, we're going to start with the best move in our opinion, which was queen e6, queen d8, and we're going to try our best to line up bishop d5 and queen to g8. And again, anytime Noctie offers queen trades, we got to be very careful how we approach the situation. As we already know, queen c8 is the best move. And let's see how Noctie proceeds. So we saw Noctie playing queen e7 in the previous game, and we saw how that turned out. The b6 pawn is weakened, and we just get a free pawn from that. So let's see if Noctie is going to try to play maybe something like bishop b7 or bishop c5. Just try to reinforce the position that way. Instead, we see queen d6. I'm assuming I could still take this pawn, although I will be pinned. So I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that, but there is no way for Noctie to actually utilize that pin. So I'm pretty sure after taking on b6, we will be perfectly fine as in the previous game. Alrighty, so let's pretend this pawn is actually not hanging, and let's just play the move bishop to d5 and just really try to showcase how dangerous the light square infiltration really is, which it is looking pretty powerful. Queen f7 was a checkmate threat, so Noctie does indeed play bishop e7 to block that checkmate threat. So let's figure out how we're going to infiltrate. So we could start with queen c8 check, which looks decent to me, because now Noctie is going to have to be careful. Yeah, if queen d8, there was queen e6. So Noctie correctly decides to play bishop to e7. And this is the moment where maybe we've done about as maximum of preparation as we could. Maybe we have queen f5, queen h7. Actually, there you go. This is the way we're going to continue trying to infiltrate. I actually like this idea a lot. And there we go. Ooh, Noctie did not like this move, queen h7. Maybe I played a little bit too quickly. Oh, queen g6 was the better move. That's probably why Noctie didn't like that. The good news is if you mess up, you can just take back. And again, just to figure out if queen g6 was the best move, you can always click on the show ideas button. And oh no, in fact, Noctie doesn't even like queen g6. Noctie likes queen e4 and queen c8 again, just maybe thinking that, okay, the bishop on d8 was being pinned, so that's in our favor. But I'm trying to understand what is really wrong with queen g6. Okay, it still thinks it's a good move. Okay, yeah, it's the same idea to just go for the checkmate. And Noctie goes queen d7, and now we could sort of decide to play queen h7, queen g8, try to infiltrate that way. But alternatively, we could just ask ourselves, does Noctie have a threat here? Is Noctie really trying to do anything? And if the answer is no, then we could simply play king g2. This is not a threat because there's checkmate. Bishop doesn't have any good squares. So let's just put our king on g2. Let's put it on the light square and just stay in this position and figure out how we can continue to put up the pressure. King e7. Maybe now Noctie is, in fact, trying to take the pawn, but it does feel a little bit dangerous. This king is walking out in the middle, and it is looking like we have some queen f7, king d6. Maybe afterwards we have some queen f8 and just force a few checks. Doesn't seem exactly... Yeah, I don't see exactly how we're going to win there. There's also queen e4. My main concern is, if we do lose this pawn, it might become a little bit dangerous for us. We have to be slightly careful not to allow this pawn to promote. So if in doubt, we can always start just giving checks. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to play queen e4 check, see where Noctie goes with the king, king d6. Okay, so at least it's stopping me from playing bishop c6 and protecting my pawn. But at the same time, okay, the king is just kind of walking, and it's very brave. It's a very brave king. Let's just put it that way. Maybe it's gonna go all the way there. Actually, that'll be hilarious if that's the case. We might have to be careful. Yeah, it's looking like we are losing this pawn. Potentially, we could just move the bishop out of the way so we can play queen d5. That looks good. That does look good. And the thing is, if the queen ever takes this, we're gonna have lots of threats on Noctie's position. So this move looks interesting, but I'm assuming king c5, king b4. This is crazy how the king will just kind of walk around, and bishop's covering the king side, so I can't make any progress. And I'm kind of worried about losing this pawn again, as I've mentioned. But okay, for the time being, it looks like we're still okay. Like nothing major has happened. So, and as always, you can just click on the Show Ideas button. And as you saw, bishop b7, one of the moves that I was talking about is liked by Noctie. Queen f4, also liked by Noctie. And ooh, I actually like this move a lot. So I was worried about king c5, but I'm starting to realize that after queen b8, actually Noctie is not able to take this pawn, because if Noctie takes this pawn, we're gonna have a nasty check on f8. So that's why Noctie goes bishop to d8. But this king is out to get checkmated, or out to get very, very aggressively powerful. So again, bishop's covering, but the queen needs to cover the bishop, so there's no queen a4. But there might be a threat of king b4, yeah? That is fascinating. So we need to figure out a way in which we could sort of maneuver maybe our bishop around. That's a little too slow, and also we give away the beautiful d5 square that it is currently on. There is queen e5, but bishop f6 will happen, so we haven't made any progress there. It's not easy. Basically, king b4 is kind of a move Noctie wants to make, so we do have to be sort of precise in how we continue with this position. Maybe we do have to reroute the queen, because it kind of feels like, okay, when this king goes to b4, it's really hard for us to be able to give checks. So let me go back. Let's go queen e5. We're threatening major things like bishop e6, discovered check, and yeah, okay, king b4 was also an option, but that was not going to be good. We had a move there, just for those of you who are curious. After this move, we had the move bishop c6, discovered check, and after king takes c6, otherwise we're just going to capture the queen on a4. So king takes c6, we had queen e8 check, picking up the queen that would have been on a4. So bishop f6 makes a lot of sense. Now we just have to retreat with the queen. Again, I really don't like this idea by Noctie, so let me go ahead and play queen e2. I know I'm kind of giving up this pawn, but it feels like once this queen gets away from the defense of these squares there, we probably had some infiltration with our own queen. So yeah, it does feel like we're able to sort of make progress now. That we could just try to bring this queen here, or maybe queen a3. Yeah. Wait. Queen a3 is actually a checkmate threat. Yeah, that's actually great, because whoa, my goodness, Noctie is not afraid. Whoa, queen b2. I guess king a4. Otherwise, we're just gonna see a very quick checkmate. So king a4, and Noctie is saying, I'm able to hold. Well, that doesn't feel right. It does not feel right for this king. Let me go ahead and give a check. It just feels like we're able to checkmate this king. Okay, so it does go to c5, but as far as I'm able to see, we had bishop d1, bishop a4, bishop f3, bishop d1 there, and here it is just a checkmate. So again, even when the king tries to start walking, tries to be active, you can see the benefit of having our king just, the benefit of having our king completely safe. And even when this king by Noctie just advanced a lot, even to c5, we were just still able to cause a lot of problems, because black's pieces are not coordinated well. And yeah, we just managed to checkmate Noctie out of the bloom. So good luck in your games. Try to utilize the light squares to the fullest extent. Remember the two weaknesses idea. If queens do get traded, make sure you've won an extra pawn, maybe the one on b6, preferably. And remember that you can slowly improve your position, kind of like Caruana did in the game where king g2 and f4 were played. Your king is safe from any perpetual checks, so that is another advantage you have. Good luck in your games. We'll see you in the next one.